This is the first time I'm using a smartphone and gimbal contraption for the purpose of being live. So I usually do not have many live viewers, so I can't really rely on responses from viewers regarding whether I am audible or visible or not. So I'll just check on my own device. Please give me a few seconds. Um, just have a look. No, looks like I'm not. Anyway, let's proceed. So, as per tradition, in these live videos, I talk about the past few videos that I've made and I try to share some context, and also if there are any questions, I try to answer them. But in this live video, I'll not only talk about that, but we will start a new system, and I hope I'll be able to honor it. I will try to record a video every um, night or every day, depending upon when it is possible, and try to record the events of the last 24 hours. And because I'm in a new country, I think that is something which people who care about me want to know about. So we will try to do that. And I will be able to share my perspective of a new place. And maybe that's something which you will like also. So video number 568 was about frequently asked questions in chronic otitis media. Now, what I have felt over the years, both as a student, a postgraduate student, an MBBS student, and an assistant professor, that the questions asked in chronic otitis media are more or less the same. The topics in ENT that teachers expect students to know, that also remains the same. But the performance of students also remains the same. The answers that they give remain the same, and the mistakes they make remains the same. The mistakes I had made during my stint as an MBBS student are the same mistakes that people 10 years later doing MBBS are making. So that I think feels a little weird. So I try to make a list of some very commonly asked questions on chronic otitis media so that at least these questions people would prepare answers for adequately, and they would try to answer. So that was video number 568. Uh, I think there are 20 viewers. If you could just comment if I'm audible or visible, I would be encouraged. Thank you for tuning in. I will first talk about the previous few videos and then, um, okay, that is very good. Hello. And so we will then talk about the other uh, videos and then finally talk about my day in Northern Ireland. So in video number 569, 569 was the next video. I talked about goiter, again a topic where frequently asked questions, uh, a list was attempted. I tried to make a list of the frequently asked questions in goiter. And again, I think if you know those questions, if you can anticipate those questions, prepare the answers for those questions, you will be able to answer the commonly asked questions. And the uncommon question, if you don't answer, it really doesn't make much of a difference, because if you're able to answer those questions, you may get more marks, you may get more credit. But if you're not able to answer those questions, the examiner usually does not hold it against you. But the commonly asked questions you need to know. So I tried to make a list of it in video number 569. In video number 570, I talked about the man Scott Brown. Usually in ENT, when we hear the word Scott Brown, we think of a book. But sometimes we lose the person while remembering or honoring his work, you know. So obviously all of us in ENT are familiar with the name Scott Brown because he is the author of the most important textbook in ENT. But he's more than just a book, or he's more than just an author. He had his own life, and his own life is so interesting. That's what I talked about. that probably he would not have written the book if his life had not taken certain unexpected turns. And the rest, as they say, is published history. In video number 571, I talked about the Emmy Awards, especially adolescence, and I'm very excited to be in the same country where adolescence was filmed, overall, the same country, United Kingdom. And I also talked about why Emmy is called Emmy, the Emmy Awards. It interestingly gets its name from a piece of technology that was used to make television possible initially, but that technology is now not used, but the name Emmy has stuck. So that was quite an interesting watch. So please do check it out. Video number 571. Why is it called Emmy? And who won it this year? In video number 572, I talk about something which I've always been fascinated about, the concept of a benevolent dictator. This is a term that is only used by somebody who wants to be a dictator, I feel, or because nobody would be comfortable living in a dictatorship. However, I did want to do a bit of research, geopolitical research, and try to find out if there was any country in the world where a benevolent dictator existed. So I don't know. I think the only country which can make a legitimate argument that it did have a benevolent dictator could be France under Charles de Gaulle, or it could be Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew. So I talked about that in video number 572. In video number 573, I talked about the existence of dictatorship in Western Europe. Now, following the Second World War, for people like us who are not following the European history that closely, we were well aware of the existence of dictatorship, communist dictatorship in Eastern Europe, beyond the so-called Iron Curtain. But many parts of Western Europe were also dictatorships for a very long time, up to the 70s. You had Spain, which was the dictatorship, you had Portugal, which was a dictatorship, and these dictatorships ended without any violence, which is also quite interesting. In video number 574, I talked about a highly recommended Hindi movie, Seher, which I watched much too late. I wish I had seen it much sooner. I wish I had seen it in the theater. I wish it had received greater acclaim and certainly better numbers at the box office. Highly recommended movie. Do check it out. It is available on YouTube. In video number 575, I talked about the eternal conflict between capitalism and communism and how neither of those concepts have really existed in their unadulterated form. But that wouldn't stop capitalist supporters fighting communist supporters and vice versa. In video number 576, I talked about epistaxis, which is bleeding from nose, one of the most important emergencies that an ENT specialist has to deal with, and also something which all of us have had some experience with. If not, congratulations. So I tried to talk about how to treat epistaxis. In video number 577, I talked about Durga Puja in Durgapur in 2025. I visited several pandals with my parents, which was not a very enjoyable experience, I will not lie, because at that time I was preparing for an interview, which eventually resulted in me being present where I am now. So half of my mind was on the interview, and I was really scared that I was not going to get enough time to prepare adequately for it. But nevertheless, I do not regret going out on Durga Puja on that day with my parents because it was a memorable experience. If would, uh, I would not be comfortable with the idea that I did not go out with them at all in 2025 because I don't know when I will get the next opportunity to go out with them in Durga Puja. In video number 578, I talked about Bads of Bollywood, the Ayan Khan Netflix show, and how it is perhaps the strongest argument in favor of nepotism. And we have, whenever we look at an argument, we have to understand who is making it. And the show is made by Aryan Khan, and the show makes you like Aryan Khan, which is pro nepotism then. You've had people saying that if this is why we need nepotism, because if you have nepotism, then shows like this can get made, can be considered to be authentic. But is it though? Is it authentic? See, cinema at its core is a highly manipulative medium. People who say that cinema is a creative field do not answer the question, what are they creating? They are not creating video files, digital video files like I am creating now. They are not creating, in the earlier days, films that were sent to theaters, which were used on projection and projected on a big screen. Although that's a physical creation, what essentially filmmakers create are emotions in the minds of the audience. So they are genuinely creating emotions. That is what they. So they are well aware of how to create emotions. If you're not aware of how to create emotions, then you're not a filmmaker. So, and that applies for Netflix shows. So if you are feeling pro nepotism, you have to pause and wonder, was that the intention of the maker of the show all along? In video number 579, I talk about one of my favorite Shakespearean speeches. It's also something which I wonder about whenever something big happens in my life. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. And I talked about it in more detail in video number 579. In video number 580, I talked about films shaping society, whether Hollywood movies or Bollywood movies. And in 581, I talked about the difference, literal difference between the two words, surgery and operation. Often they are used interchangeably, but they are not synonymous. The difference was discussed in video number 581. Best ever way to ace in MRCSA exams. I have less than 5 weeks left. I think 5 weeks is a lot of time. Um, Depends upon your background. I don't know if you are a general surgeon or you just completed MBBS. I don't even know which country you're from. So if you are in general surgery, if you're doing residency general surgery, I think 5 weeks is adequate time. So maybe EMRCS, go through the question bank. I believe there is a coaching provided by MRC Sala. 5 weeks into it, I don't know how useful that will be. Right. So just after MBBS, then it becomes a little tricky, but not impossible. Don't lose hope. I suggest you Google MRC Sala, MRC Sala, Salah, and seek help there. He's a professional. He has helped many people pass MRCS Part A. As long, um, yeah, okay, good. You've done house job too. So yes, you've decided to do MRCSA to move to the UK, I suppose, as many people from your country have, and many of them have helped me a lot. So I'll be happy to help you. But I think the best way to do this is through MRC Sala. Again, MRC in caps, Salah, Salah. Google that and use those resources. I think it will be very, very helpful to you. So going back to video number 582, I talked about the war between YouTube and movies and how eventually YouTube will destroy movies, because our experience of interacting with content is more like we want to pause it, we want to take it to the bathroom with us, we want to increase the speed when it's too slow, we want to do all kinds of things, interact with our content. But while watching a movie, especially in a theater, you really can't do anything. You are captive. The movie has to be really engaging, but you've lost the habit of watching content like that, and I have lost the habit. I am one of the biggest movie buffs in the world, I feel, but recently went to a theater to watch one of the most well made movies of recent times, but I found it a big struggle to sit in that seat surrounded with people not being able to move, not being able to talk, not being able to look at my phone. I felt very uncomfortable. So the movie watching experience, I believe, has been destroyed with the popularity of platforms like YouTube. So eventually, I think if everything is going to move on to YouTube. YouTube is going to be this one big uh, entity. Maybe Google will spin it off. I don't know. I don't know how corporate governance works. So yeah, okay. Thank you for that comment. And so I don't know what will happen, but I do believe that YouTube will be the biggest player in the entertainment industry in a not too distant future. In video number 583, I talked about Labubu, or mostly my niece talked about Labubu because I frankly have no clue what Labubu is. Apparently, it's a very famous thing, so my niece talked about it in with a great deal of clarity. In video number 584, I talked about the Monroe Doctrine, which strangely has become very significant now. So I talked about the origins and the exact quote, exact text of the Monroe Doctrine, I believe, was discussed. The Monroe Doctrine from 1823. In video number 585, I talked about the ATLS instructor course. I think I shared the 5 minute teaching video, micro teaching session, which was the most important part of the ATLS instructor course. So if any of you choose to participate in the ATLS instructor course, know that you will be asked to teach for 5 minutes, and the way you teach in those 5 minutes, it will be very carefully assessed. And if you are not good enough, then that might be the difference between becoming an instructor and not becoming an instructor. So in video number 586, I talked about Dar, which is also a movie I saw while attending the instructor course. I should not have done that. There was hardly any time to do anything else, hardly any time to eat, sleep, but I ended up finding time to watch a movie, which really did put my which really did put me under a lot of pressure, which could have been avoided. But I watched Dar and I made a video out of it, which is quite well liked actually. A lot of things about Dar get lost in the hubris of Shah Rukh Khan. People say Shah Rukh Khan, kya acting kya, and all that. True, not disputed. Shah Rukh Khan, Shah Rukh Khan's acting talent really does get missed a lot under the burden or the glitter of his star power. People generally talk about Shah Rukh Khan and they talk about the immense wealth he has, the immense success he has had, the way he conducts himself in public, his interview skills, his journey in his life. But rarely people talk about how good an actor he is, which is not because he's not a good actor. He is an extremely talented actor, extremely talented, and I had watched an interview of Shah Rukh Khan where he talked about how he tried to model his character in Dar. Uh, uh, he tried to model it upon the character played by uh, Robert De Niro in Cape Fear. And sure enough, if you watch Cape Fear and Dar, of course, Dar is a Hindi movie. It cannot show all the gruesome details that Cape Fear could. But the ending, the climax of the show, of the movie Dar, the climax of Dar and the climax of Cape Fear, the end action scene, shot on the boat. There was no reason to shoot it on a boat in Dar, except for the fact Cape Fear. So I found that quite interesting. And many little details about Dar that people generally don't talk about is what I talked about in video number 586. In video number 587, I talked about how to restore your GMC license to practice. Now, one would wonder that losing the license to practice is like a big deal. And yes, it is if you lose it involuntarily. But for many international medical graduates or international doctors, uh, we do surrender the license to practice initially, especially if you don't get a job in the UK in the first year of being registered with the GMC, which is sadly what did happen to me. So I voluntarily surrendered my license to practice because in that 1 year you have to have somebody in the UK who can tell GMC that you did good work. I did not have anyone like that because I did not get a job in the first year after I registered with GMC. So I voluntarily surrendered it, and after I got a job, I restored my license to practice with the General Medical Council of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And the entire process is what I have described in video number 587. In video number 588, I tried to describe what to expect in an ATLS instructor course. And in video number 589, because I don't think there are many videos about ATLS, there are hardly any videos about ATLS instructor course, which is not a very frequently conducted course. So I had the privilege of attending it, so I tried to give an insider's opinion, insider's view of the ATLS instructors course. In video number 589, I talked about how to get the coveted certificate of sponsorship. Once you get the job offer, your mind then moves to what is required next. You get about a second to feel happy, and the immediately next thing is, what evidence do I have to provide? What documents do I have to provide? How do I get the certificate of sponsor? As if getting the certificate of sponsorship is the greatest source of joy known to humankind. So that process was described in video number 589. In video number 590, I talked to Dr. Prisa Ghosh about how she got her first NHS job, which she got about, I think, 2 weeks after I got my offer letter from a trust in the United Kingdom. In video number 591, I reviewed the book Say Nothing, which is perhaps one of the best books I've read in the last 10 years. In video number 592, I interviewed my Marathi cousin Shubham Chattopadhyay, or Shubham Chatterjee, I believe. Legally, he's called Shubham Chatterjee, he's not Chattopadhyay, as his father keeps reminding me, my uncle. And so it was a very interesting chat. I got to meet him after a long time, and I think if not for the podcasting platform, we would not be able to chat about such a wide ranging gamut of topics if not for the world of podcast. In video number 593, which was shot, I think, more than 10 days back, because the title says 10 days from today, UK, and I am in the UK shooting this video. If you do not believe me, maybe I can show you the view out of the window. Okay, ignore the clothes, but if you can understand the view out of the window, that's not India. As the famous line from Wizard of Oz, we are not in Kansas anymore. So in video number 593, I talked about my imminent journey to the United Kingdom. And in video number 594, I talked about something which is very close to my heart. I believe there are, in most professions, there are rules regulating working hours, but no rules, no strict rules exist about the working hours for doctors in India, which is something I find deplorable. There's no other word for it. The necessary authorities, who are very smart, don't get me wrong, these people are the smartest of the smartest. How did they describe the working hours that a doctor or a resident doctor should have in India? Reasonable working hours, reasonable rest. Now, your reasonable may be unreasonable for me. What is the problem in making the criteria explicit, like it is in the United Kingdom, like it is in many other parts of the world? And it's not like uh, people don't care about patients in countries where doctors have working hour regulations. In fact, I believe people care more about patients in countries where working hour regulations for doctors exist. Because if a doctor is overworking, is not sleeping, he is as dangerous to the patient as a person who is acting like a doctor and is under the influence of alcohol. So you don't want your doctor to be drunk on duty. Why would you want your doctor to be overworked on duty? Is what I want to ask the authorities in India. I don't know. So I hope it gets sorted quite soon, and I'm quite confident it will be. In video number 595, I talked about the most commonly asked inaugural question in NHS interviews: take us through your CV. And I recorded an answer for future reference, and I uploaded that answer. It is by no means the best possible answer for that question, but that is an answer which I prepared myself, that I would try to discuss if the question was asked to me during my interview. In video number 596, I talked about another non-clinical question which is quite frequently asked. Um, Two patients are presented to the accident and emergency at the same time. You are the only doctor in the accident and emergency. What do you do? Or you are treating a patient in the accident and emergency, and another patient comes in. There is no other doctor. The nurse is calling you. What do you do? So this is more of an ethical situation, more of a personal integrity situation, and so it's more of a non-clinical situation. So although the setting is clinical, the question mostly assesses non-clinical attributes. In video number 597, I tried to answer another NHS interview question. Do you prefer working alone, or do you prefer working as a member of a team? This is a trick question in my opinion. You should never pick one, because as a doctor, in various situations you might be working alone or you might be working in a team, and mostly the people who are hiring you want to assess you in both situations. So if you get a question like that, it's better to say that you enjoy it equally and share the things that you enjoy about working alone, and with examples such as teaching is an activity, delivering a lecture is an activity which is usually done alone. It's not a group effort. So typically, and performing a surgery is a team effort. So how you enjoy both, you can describe that, and that I think proves to be a very effective answer. The next question I tried to answer in video number 598 was how to defend your own beliefs if challenged by a patient, and I shared an example of a patient who had asked me that why would her hearing not improve after surgery to remove cholesteatoma, because cholesteatoma is the thing that has decreased her hearing, then why should her hearing worsen after removing the cholesteatoma by performing surgery? So I tried to explain the cholesteatoma hearer concept to her, and that entire process was described in video number 598. In video number 599, I talked about my first job, which was my first traditional job, because before that I had mostly got jobs um, through virtue of my journey. So a set path was almost created, and I just kept walking on it, and I kept getting one job after the other. It was mostly a seamless process. The first real interviewed job, or a non-traditional job that I got in a traditional manner, was my job as an assistant professor in IQ City Medical College. I appeared in an interview. It was a very good interview, if I may say so about my own interview, and I was offered the job on the spot, and I was quite happy working there. I was delighted worked there for 3 years and a month, and I talked about all the people I met in the NT department in IQ City, and my feelings about them, which were overwhelmingly positive. In video number 600, which is the most recent pre-recorded video, I talked about my one-way trip to the United Kingdom, the various legs of the journey, road trip from Asansol to Kolkata, first flight from Kolkata to Abu Dhabi, then the layover in Abu Dhabi airport, the business class lounge, which is fantastic in Abu Dhabi airport, then the flight from Abu Dhabi to London, which was an 8-hour flight which I slept through, and it was a breeze. And then the 15-hour layover in London Heathrow Airport, followed by the 90-minute flight in Logan Air, which is an extremely tiny aircraft. I've never been on an aircraft tinier than the Logan Air aircraft. It has this 1 by 2 configuration with an aisle in between. So you have one seat next to the window, aisle, and then 2 seats, and there is hardly any cabin space. So my advice to people flying Logan Air, based on the mistakes I made, is doesn't matter how soon you check in. I was the first one to check in. I was the first one to be waiting at the boarding gate. The most important thing is get on the flight first. If you can't get on the flight first, you are in trouble. And they asked us to board a bus which took us from the airport gate to the flight. I made the mistake of sitting. Most people ignored the vacant seats and stood near the door of the bus because they were more experienced. I wasn't. When I reached, there was no space to keep the luggage inside. There was no space to keep the luggage under the chair, also. I am quite familiar with public transport where there's no space to keep luggage. I just didn't expect it in an airline from London to Northern Ireland. I expect it in certain trains that I've grown up commuting in. So, with that, I would like to end talking about videos, and now I want to talk about my first full functional day in Northern Ireland. So, I am still mentally and physically working on India time. I aim to redress that as soon as possible. So I didn't really get much sleep. I woke up at 5 a.m. India time, which is midnight UK time. So that was a mistake. But I took a bath. There is a bathtub at the hotel I'm in, and I figured out how to use a bathtub properly. I figured out a lot of other things which are culturally different in the bathroom when it comes to a traditional UK bathroom and a traditional Indian bathroom. Although I really don't use traditional Indian bathroom, but there are differences, important differences. Paper and water. If you know, you know. So I figured it out how to understand the nitty gritties with the help of ChatGPT. And so the bathroom fact part of the adjustment process, I believe, has been taken care of effectively, hopefully. And so I took a bath around 4 to 5, I think, and then I I think I worked on the video. The video I managed to upload. Actually, the first recording of the video was much better, but accidentally I deleted it. So I had to reshoot it, and the second shoot was really not as good as the first one. So that is a regret I have, I believe. But I uploaded that, and around 6, I started getting ready. Um, and by 7 I was ready. I knew what my plans were for the day. My plans were to have the biggest breakfast a human being can have, because breakfast is complimentary. It's included in the payment I've already made to the hotel. So I wanted to have the biggest breakfast possible for a human being to ingest. And I went there, and I had the usual English breakfast stuff, um, deep fried potatoes, scrambled eggs, beans. Only so much you can have, So I had generous helpings of that, but beyond the point, I was full. So once I was full, and this was I think 8 in the morning, which was still quite dark outside, I decided to walk from my hotel where I'm in right now, City Hotel, to the hospital that I have been offered a job in, Galvin Hospital, which is a 45-minute walk. And I felt a 45-minute walk in cool weather is not really going to be difficult for me, because I have walked for 45 minutes. It's not a very difficult task based on my experience of walking. So I walked, but the first thing I did not anticipate was the chilly winds. It was, I knew the temperature, and I knew the possibility of rain, but it was windy, which was difficult to negotiate. Um, I did use Google Maps, walking directions, and even though Google Maps is spectacularly accurate, I did have difficulties navigating certain areas, especially the tunnels underground were difficult to navigate. Hello, Annesha, কেমন আছো? Uh, thank you. If you want to say something, you can say. You can just. I'm just describing my day. So I walked to the hospital from my hotel. It was a 45-minute walk, which was largely based on the guidance from Google Maps. And I did get lost once or twice, but this was early in the morning, 8 a.m., which is still dark in Northern Ireland. And by the time I reached the hospital, sunrise was slowly happening. So it was almost a metaphorical moment that when the sun came out, I also reached the hospital. And it's a big hospital. It has a helipad, places where helicopters land for emergency evacuation, I suppose, for uh, air ambulance, I suppose. So it's quite fancy. It's the fanciest hospital I've seen in my life so far. And I intend to share more about my life here without really violating any workplace rules and regulations. Also, I want to mention this that the immigration process was so smooth. I was very happy with that. You know, I was asked questions at every port of entry, and I was happy to answer them because it was a legitimate question. They are doing their job, and they couldn't have been kinder to me. I think the immigration person in London Heathrow Airport, the immigration person the police officer who met me at the airport in Northern Ireland, all of these people were extremely kind. The Logan Air person who decided to ask me a few questions was also doing his job, and I thoroughly support people doing their job. And I was very happy that the immigration process was very smooth for me. Anyway, so when I reached the hospital, and the hospital reconnaissance or just walking around the hospital in circles happened, and then I walked back to the hotel. The walk back was much easier, much more straightforward, but finding the hospital was tricky. I intend to get that sorted quite soon. And then I got a message from Sylvia that she was going to pick me up and take me on a drive around the place. And that happened around 12 noon. So she picked me up in her Mercedes, blue Mercedes, and we went to the hospital first. I got my bank letter, and I uh, went to Danske Bank. I believe it's a Danish bank, which is very close to the hospital. It has a branch very close to the hospital. So I went to Danske Bank, and very helpful employee at the bank, a helpful lady. She guided me through the process, and I managed to submit my application for a bank account. And I hope to have a bank account with Danske Bank within the next week. She said, keep checking your email. I don't have to visit the bank branch again. So that was the first task I accomplished. The second task was I got a letter from um, the ENT department, which has certain details of pertaining to my employment. I have the card which will allow me to access the department, and I got a new email ID, login credentials, all of that. I got a letter, and I met a few people in the ENT department. I think a formal introduction will happen on Monday, 22nd December. So I'm really looking forward to that one. After these two activities in the hospital, she took me to the Red Gate to be my next accommodation, which is a beautiful building. It's almost like a mansion. And I met Brian, who is the owner of the property, and he lives there. It's his house. Basically, he allows some other people to live there also. He has 6 children, all of whom are now grown up and living elsewhere. I believe in some are living in other countries, Australia, New Zealand. So now the rooms are lying vacant, and he lets it out to people who need accommodation like me. And I don't think I have met a kinder person than Brian. So that happened, and from there I went to a GP, general practitioner's office, where I took the registration form, because it's important to be registered with a general practitioner, because that's the system in the United Kingdom. If you have a problem, you first go to GP. If it's an emergency, obviously you can go to the accident and emergency, but for non-emergency problems you should first go to a general practitioner. So I think the name of the general practitioner's office that I took a registration from was Riverfront, and I hope to get that job done quickly enough. After that, um, Sylvia drove me back to the hotel. She showed me the walls of Delhi, which is a very famous landmark in the location I'm in now, and I would definitely want to take a walk around that. In the morning, I crossed the Peace Bridge, which is visible right out the window. It's very close, and it's a bridge that you can cross either on foot or using a bicycle. No motor cars are allowed on that bridge, and I intend to release a video just on the Peace Bridge, which will probably be visible tomorrow to you. And then I was back at the hotel. I was supposed to have an induction online at 3:30, but that got postponed to Monday because of unavoidable reasons. So on Monday, I would have three tasks and an appointment with the occupational health team in Harvey Halls. That is in the morning, and a taxi would be waiting for me at 9:20 a.m., which is very kind of the people to provide me with a taxi. Uh, After the occupational health appointment, I'll have a departmental tour where I'll get to meet people in the NT department, and then the third task would be the induction into the hospital, which would happen virtually on the Microsoft Teams platform. So that's the task for Monday. Today is Friday. Saturday, Sunday, what I should be doing, I don't really know, and I'll keep you posted. So I keep so that was supposed to happen at 3:30. That is why I was that was supposed to be the most important task today, but it didn't happen. So I received this news around 2 p.m. No, not 2 p.m. I think about half an hour before the scheduled start of the induction ceremony. I induction program, I got the news that it had to be postponed. So what did I do? I immediately went to the swimming pool in the hotel to swim. And suffice to say, I will not try that again because of cultural reasons, I suppose. It has a men's locker room. And while I have watched a lot of movies about men's locker rooms in America, experiencing it in person is really not not a very not the most pleasant experience. Let's say I'm not very comfortable watching or being in the presence of naked adult men, I suppose. So that was a little awkward. So I did go for a swim because I had entered. It would be super weird to not swim and just leave, but I did. I had my swimming costume on, and I had the entire pool to myself. There was nobody else in the pool at that time. I went at 3:30 p.m. I don't think people swim at 3:30 p.m. So I spent a lot of time in the pool. I realized that I still remember how to swim, but the stamina has decreased substantially. But it will improve with frequent swimming. Although I don't think I'll go swimming in this hotel again because it just is a little awkward, just a little. Again, it's a me problem, not a problem. So once I was back from the swimming session, I I talked to a few people, and that's it. That was my day, and now I intend to sleep. One of the uh, most important things. Okay, so a very interesting thing happened at the swimming place. So I did carry my own swimming costume from India, so I didn't have to buy swimming attire there, but I did have to pay for the shower cap. Um, you know, one has to cover the hair, and we are familiar with that as surgeons, but for swimming also it is required. So I had to pay for that, 2.5 pounds, and I gave the person at the counter a 10 pound note, and I got 7.5 pounds in coins as change. The funny thing is, I could not recognize those coins, as in which is a 1 pound coin and what is some other coin. So that is a topic for an upcoming video. coins in the UK. So Anisha says party Kurban weekend day. Uh, Okay, but with who? All the people I used to party with are in India. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope if you liked it, then I'll make more videos like this, more live videos where I talk about the events of the day without really divulging confidential information. And thank you so much for sticking around. Bye bye. And as this t shirt says, please don't forget to be awesome.